If you've ever seen a depiction of the three kings visiting the holy infant, you'll know him as the third king, and he's almost always black. But have you ever wondered why? The answer will blow you away. The Gospel of Matthew chapter 2 verses 1 and 2 says this. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. Did you spot it? Two things specifically. Yep, they're not kings. They're wise men transliterated as magi, and there aren't three. The Bible doesn't actually give us a specific number of the wise men who visited Jesus. But knowing how people with means traveled long distances in ancient times, these wise men would have been more than three in number. A whole caravan of them, in fact, enough to grab the attention of local Roman authorities like Herod, who the Bible says took a sinister interest in the baby Jesus when he saw this likely huge caravan passing through Jerusalem. But who were these wise men? The answer lies in their name, Magi, coming from the old Persian word magus, meaning literally sorcerer or astrologer. No surprise how the word for astrologer came to be mixed up with sorcerer, came to be mixed up with wise man. Often scientists, chemists, astrologers, people with esoteric knowledge were seen as sorcerers in ancient times. So then, this was a band of elite men from the east who probably studied the movement of the stars, believing them to hold secrets about the future. They were also probably from Persia, hence the use of the Persian term Magi by the Bible. Also, Persia was the last place the Jews were exiled to as a people before returning to Jerusalem. There, the Jews leave behind many cultural footprints, like their Torah, which inevitably influences the culture and law of the Persians forever. The Torah is just the type of exotic and esoteric text the Magi class of Persia would have been interested in. But again, how does that tie in with this guy? Okay, here's how. Centuries pass and the record of Matthew becomes mixed with legend. That legend makes a few changes to Matthew's account. The Magi become three: Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. But by now, only Melchior is from Persia. Meanwhile, Gaspar is the king of the Indians, and Balthazar the black guy is the king of the Arabs. All this according to an ancient Greek chronicle translated into Latin around the 8th century. Some later accounts change his ethnicity to Ethiopian, but most maintain he's the king of the Arabs. All three kings are said to be changed irreversibly by what they witnessed on that fateful night in Bethlehem, all turning their loyalty in to this infant boy supposed to be the Son of God, to the point of being martyrs for the cause. Their bodies are said to be buried in the cathedral at Cologne at the shrine of the three kings. Now, whether or not there were three kings or great men from these three regions with these exact names is besides the point. What the story of the three kings indicates is that there was a time nobody batted an eyelid at the idea that a black man not only came from the Arabian Peninsula, but was the king of the Arabs. Now that shouldn't surprise us. First, look at basic geography. The Arabian Peninsula forms part of a landmass adjacent to and contiguous with the African continent, and where the two are separated, they're separated only by a thin strip of water called the Red Sea. In fact, all of 10 miles of water separates the Horn of Africa from Arabia. This thin strip has formed no meaningful barrier over the centuries and doesn't today either. Quite the opposite. It's been a watery highway between the two areas, facilitating trade, cultural exchanges and migration back and forth for thousands of years. Culturally, Arabs owe a lot to the mother continent and vice versa, language being one thing. Doubt me? Well, check in with our video on the origins of the oldest writing systems in the world, Ge'ez, Amharic and Sabaean, according to many esteemed anthropologists and linguists, all African in origin. Then there's the Afro-Asiatic language group, said by the majority of anthropologists to have originated in the Horn of Africa. In fact, the hard copy Encyclopaedia Britannica once had this to say of Hymyarite, a South Arabic dialect spoken primarily by ancient Yemenis. The name Himyar or Dusky, given now to the ruling class, points to African origin. The Hymyaritic language now indeed almost lost, but some words of which have been preserved either in proper names or even in whole sentences handed down. They are African in character, often in identity. Indeed, the dialect commonly used along the southeastern coast hardly differs from that used by the Somali Africans on the opposite shore. It is remarkable that where the grammar of the Arabic now spoken by the pure Arabs differs from that of the north, it coincides with the Abyssinian. Amazing, right? There's more. Quote, the pre-Islamic institutions of Yemen and its allied provinces, its monarchies, courts, armies, bear a marked resemblance to the historical Afro-Egyptian type and even to the modern Abyssinian. The physical conformation of the pure-blooded Arab inhabitants of Yemen, Hadramaut, Oman and the adjoining districts, the shape and size of the head, the slenderness of the lower limbs, the comparative scantiness of hair and other particulars point in an African rather than an Asiatic direction. The general habits of the people, given to sedentary rather than nomadic occupations, fond of village life, of society, of dance and music, good cultivators of the soil, tolerant traders, moderate artisans, but averse to pastoral pursuits, have much more in common with the inhabitants of the African than with those of the Western Asiatic continent. End quote. But there's even more. A little known fact is that large swathes of Arabia have been under control of past Ethiopian empires such as the Aksumite kingdom and the Sabaean empire, the latter of which is said to be where the queen of Sheba hailed from, typically depicted as a woman of Ethiopian complexion and thought by ancient authors to have been a queen of an Egypto-Ethiopic Arabian confederation. In fact, the legend surrounding Balthazar came about during the 8th century at the height of the Ethiopian Empire of Aksum, which encompassed the southern half of Arabia. Add to this the numerous examples of overlap and continuity of culture, linguistic history and genetics, it's not so surprising that proto-ancient sources, when coming to form a legend surrounding the king of Arabia, chose a black man. And so, almost by accident, another element of history, mythos, helps us encapsulate the truth about the black past. A people unbound, sailing, traveling, conquering, trading, guilty of the same flaws and blessed with the same graces as the rest of the human family. So when next you see this black man in an entourage of 3, bearing gifts for this man, himself one of a greater 3, know that you are looking at the evidence of our glorious past, and even more, the proof of a brighter tomorrow, for those who believe. Amongst others, I leave you with this quote, sourced by my great friend, the Debunker. It's a quote from Al-Mubarrad, the ancient Arab grammatist and biographer, writing not far off the codification of the 3 Magi myth, circa 898 AD. Quote, the Arabs used to take pride in their brown and black complexion, and they had a distaste for a white and fair complexion, and they used to say such was the complexion of the non-Arabs.